Russian missiles have hit the southern Ukrainian port of Odesa, threatening a key deal that was supposed to guarantee safe passage of grain shipments signed just yesterday. Ukrainian officials say Russian forces launched 4 cruise missiles like these at Odesa from the Black Sea, and video circulating on social media claims to show the aftermath of the attack. Now, the damage is apparently minor, reported at the port with no casualties. And earlier, I spoke with military analyst Walter Dorn and asked him about Russia's strategy behind this attack.
Russia is trying to show that the same hand that signs with a pen can also strike with a fist, that the Ukrainians can't take for granted the Russian compliance with the agreement, and that they can still threaten Ukrainian ports. So it really does show a level of hypocrisy, but the agreement itself is about the shipment. So we'll see whether the actual civilian ships, as opposed to the military ships that we think were struck this morning, whether those civilian ships will be able to get through and continue their journey to help feed the world.
So you think the deal is still workable here?
I think it's workable. It's at least it's testable now, and it's potentially workable. Russia does not want the world to criticize it, and especially the developing world that's so reliant on these supplies, that it really wants to show that it can allow some level of compliance. It's very intelligence-like that you try and work in a hybrid zone whereby you allow some compliance with agreements, but at the same time show that you can always use force.
Okay, but that said, as you say, there seems to be military targets here rather than civilian targets. But how concerned should these civilian ships be, given that this attack happens just 24 hours after a deal is signed?
Yeah, very, very concerned, because there's so many obstacles. There's the Ukrainian mines, which hopefully the Ukrainian Navy will be able to navigate around and show the civilian ships how to get out. But if those same ships are being targeted, the Navy ships are being targeted, then it makes it more hazardous for the civilian ships to go back and forth. And of course, there's the Russians might make an accident by hitting a civilian ship or deliberately do so. We just don't know. But this is an agreement signed between Russia and the UN and Turkey on one part, and Ukraine and the UN and Turkey. And so the Russians would be showing disrespect to the UN and Turkey if they did not comply with this agreement. So there's some pressure on Russia, which leaves for hope that there might be some way to get some of this grain out of Odesa and the neighboring ports.
Now, the assumption is that the attack is from Moscow, ordered by Moscow. Is there a possibility that it wasn't? Could there have been some rogue element within Russian command?
It's very doubtful. First of all, this seemed to be a precision strike on a military target, at least the ship that's in the port. And it's very consistent with Russia sending mixed messages and Russia attacking Odesa, which it's been doing for weeks. So although we can't discount the fact that there might be some disgruntled officers who want to scuttle this deal, or there be some other elements that carried out this component, this attack, I think that it's more likely that it's Russia who's either poorly coordinated or deliberately sending some mixed messaging.
Walter, I have less than a minute here, but I do want to ask you, because you did raise the United Nations, and I'm wondering whether the UN or any international body at this point can do anything in response. Given how important these grain shipments are for the world, is there anything that could be done to enforce a deal or punish Russia in any way if it does not keep its word?
Well, in addition to the criticism, the opprobrium that would come from the UN and from the world, the international community, there would be a lot of pressure from the developing countries who need that grain. There's actually thousands of people who will starve if that grain doesn't get into their hands. There are some countries that are very dependent on Ukrainian grain, and so they will put pressure on Russia as well. So there is some risk to Russia if this deal doesn't come through. And a lot of the pressure will come from some of the states that it needs politically in order to sustain its international reputation or its international clout.
And our thanks to Walter Dorn, Professor of Defence Studies at the Royal Military College of Canada and the Canadian Forces College.